Hello and welcome to the Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast,
which gives you, the listener, a series of hints and pointers on your journey as a musical artist.
providing you with interviews from those in the music industry, along with our own experiences.
Ben and James shine some light on the many pitfalls and opportunities that being a musician has to offer.
Last week we had part one of our chat with singer-songwriter Joy Ike, where we spoke about promoting yourself, how much to share, and then started the conversation on what exactly are house concerts. This week we stay in Philadelphia, USA with Joy for part two. Here we get into the nuts and bolts of house concerts, how to put them on, and things to think about when both playing and hosting these great events. Welcome to episode 12 with me, James, and him,
Ben. Right, so last time spoke to Joy, got a bit about her and a bit of an introduction, a wetted whistle for
this one.
Yeah.
Perhaps I was going to say main event, but I think the last episode had a load of really useful.
Yeah, I think that last one introduced us to it. This one kind of is going to go into a bit more of the details. It's not like scientific, as in you must do this, must do that, but it's definitely.
No, but it gives a much better flavour for what's involved.
Yeah,
in putting
and some of the things to watch out for as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I think we probably gave a whole load of intro spiel last time. So as a quick interlude, there's just something I want to bring to the attention of our listeners, Ben. Someone has been destroying the mini fence in my front garden.
That could be me.
It could be you, Ben. I'll be honest, of prime suspects,
Might be me.
You're up there.
Well, I noticed him. Has it always been like that?
What, like horizontal?
No, it's not horizontal. I would say it's about 72 degrees.
That's not the right amount of degrees.
No, it should be 90. Yeah, that potentially could be me. I maybe should start.
Why do you always back onto the drive?
For a sharp exit?
You
know what? I'll park front ways now to save your fence.
I'd be far more comfortable.
Okay.
It's not like you need a speedy getaway. Or do you actually like put a load of loot under your arm as you exit my house?
Have you not noticed stuff going missing?
Well, I'm starting to think I should probably pay more attention.
Maybe I'll front park from now on. Let's listen to Joy again.
Okay, so
yeah,
right. I'm going to roll back a bit to the first set of things that you went through, Joy. I've got a whole bunch of things here of me. So back to this potluck situation at the start. That was the first thing that interested me. So, I'm guessing. So there's the homeowner can only fit so many people in their front room or whatever. I would love to see 50 people try and get into my front room. That would be an interesting that would bring a new level of intimacy that
definitely.
you may not want. So how does that work from a homeowner perspective? Because if they've reached out to their friends, like you say, co-workers, however, and they've got space for 30 people in their room and 40 people turn up, do you have the homeowner standing on the door almost like a bouncer? Or I'm like, because obviously I guess they want as many people to come in and enjoy it, but do they have to turn people away? Like, how does that work?
Well, it's just like any other situation. If you think that you want 20 people to show up, you need to invite 35 to 40 people because people will say they'll show up, but things always change. And not everyone you'll invite to an event will come. But what I've seen a lot of homeowners do is require RSVPs. So, I'll see homeowners create Eventbrite invites. I don't know if you guys use Eventbrite over in the UK.
Yeah.
But they'll use that or they'll use Facebook. Sometimes the informality of Facebook, kind of hurts the process. I think it's so easy for people to say they're going to show up, but not. So I've seen Eventbrite and Evites, things like that work a lot better. But some homeowners will require an RSVP so that they can get a head count to make sure that everyone can fit in their home. Others who have bigger houses aren't as pent up on numbers, on not being able to fit everyone. But yeah, I had this house concert host maybe like 5 years ago. He did it in his basement. It was a huge basement, and he had about 60 people come. And he didn't seem to worry about the numbers that much, but he also did do the RSVP thing just so he could have a general idea of who was showing up.
Have you ever had it where it's got a little bit out of hand and the numbers have been a bit too stacked in favour of like not getting it?
I don't necessarily. Well, I guess my answer to that is probably different than another artist's answer. That I really love listening room spaces, and that's basically anywhere where people are there to listen. So I guess the house concerts that have backfired on me are the ones that the host promoted as a house party
Right.
instead of a house concert. So, and that, things like that where there's maybe like 60 or 70 people, but they thought it was a party, and so they were mingling, and they weren't there for the music, and so I felt like I was, in a bar sort of.
Yeah, right.
So, but if I'm at a house and, I think the biggest house concert I've ever done has been about 70 or so people. If I'm in a house and there's a lot of people and they're listening, then I don't think any number is too big for a home.
So how much involvement do you have in the advertising of the house concert? Is that solely done by the owner, or how much involvement do you have?
Yeah, that's usually done by the owner, under the understanding that, it's the people that are most likely going to go to someone's house are people who know that person or people who know someone who knows that person. So every once in a while, in most cases, most homeowners prefer to keep house concerts private, as in they'll invite friends, and the friends they invite can invite people, but It's not a public thing where anyone can come and they'll broadcast their address.
That's sensible, yeah.
Yeah. But there are a couple house concerts. I'm doing one here in Philadelphia next week, and that one is someone who has more of a house concert series where he does it every few months, and he in many cases just turns his house into a public venue where it's still a house concert, but it's not closed off. So it just really depends on the host and what they prefer and really what they're comfortable with. But usually the understanding for house concerts is that whoever is hosting the event is working with their network of people.
Right. Okay. That's because that was another thing I was going to talk about. I could imagine that inviting people you don't know, sort of off the street, into your house. Right. I can imagine a lot of people would be uncomfortable with that. But it's interesting to hear that some people do actually do that.
Yeah. And I think I have this FAQ page on my website. It's the FAQs for house concerts. And it's based off of all the questions that I get from hosts, asking things like that. Well, I don't want strangers in my home. Can I still host a house concert? And so I think people who haven't hosted one before really don't know what a house concert is. That is a huge concern. And what I love about house concerts is that they really take on the personality of who's hosting them. So they are each truly unique and truly different. And so really, house concerts can be what the host wants them to be, but I tend to be very hands-on with communicating back and forth with them, answering questions that a house concert host will have, in order to kind of put them at ease, let them know that it's probably not as stressful of a situation as you are worried it will be, and answering any questions they might have that help make the process easier.
Cool. So what do the hosts get out of it? Do some people do it for money, or do they just do it because they can?
Yeah, I guess just because they can.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about house concerts. So I mentioned earlier that I would share a little bit more about how I find most of my house concerts.
Yeah.
So I play out pretty regularly, maybe about 12 to 15 times a month, concerts in all of those, normal spaces we were talking about. So I'll do coffee houses, art centers, music and art festivals, all different types of things. And I have a newsletter that I put on my merchandise table, and that sometimes I'll pass around if it's in the middle of a concert. And people who want to stay posted on my music and they want to know what's happening, what's new, what's on the horizon, I'll encourage them to sign up for the newsletter, and I send out a monthly newsletter. And so whenever I leave that show and I'm going home and I'm entering all of these emails into my database, I'll send out an email that says, "Hey, welcome to the newsletter. Thanks for signing up," and just kind of letting them know that I will send them a monthly newsletter. It's not spam. This is me. This is my email. Kind of just an introductory welcome to the newsletter. But in that newsletter, I also tell people, if you liked what you heard today, and you're someone who loves sharing music with your friends, and you've ever thought about hosting a music thing or a concert, I am someone who loves to do house concerts, and I would love to do that in your home. And so basically, all that to say, most of my house concerts, 9 out of 10 times, come from people who have already seen me at a live performance, know what my style is, know what they would be getting themselves into as far as the type of performance I'm doing. And so basically, they're already fans. A lot of times, a person isn't really excited about hosting a concert after they've seen me at one time. But if they're someone who repeatedly comes to show, they come to a show regularly, and they've kind of turned into, they've changed from someone who's interested in my music into someone who's passionately crazy about my music, like a true blue fan. Then those are the people that are like, "Oh, I would love to host something. I would love to share your music with my friends, ... So that's really where my house concerts are coming from. People who are just like, "I would love to share this with more people."
Yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds very organic. Yeah.
Yeah. So how?
Yeah.
If I was one of those people who thought, "Oh, I quite fancy putting one of these house concerts on," what is it that, aside from obviously having a house and a room, what else do they need? I'm thinking, you've said that there's often like some food, for the mingling, so does the host generally cater an event sort of thing?
Drink,
or, what else goes into the whole putting on and being a host?
Yeah, it's I always tell people that house concerts are some of the simplest shows that you'll ever go to, be a part of, and host, because there's not a lot that you need to do to create a certain type of atmosphere in someone's house. I mean, it's already kind of there simply because it is someone's home. And so aside from food and friends, that's pretty much it. I think it maybe the one thing that the host needs to do or be mindful of is to touch base with the people they've invited. So if they've created a Facebook invite, a month and a half in advance, drop notes on that Facebook invite every few weeks, just reminding people to RSVP if they haven't yet, or send an Evite or Eventbrite reminder, telling people to RSVP if they haven't. So it's really just the reminders to make sure that they can get the head count and know what's happening. A lot of times hosts will ask, "Is there a certain video that you want me to share to give people an idea of what you sound like? Or is there any specific information that I should share, like a bio or just something that helps people get an idea of what they're coming to?" Because again, there are so many people. While it's getting trendier over here, most people still don't know what house concerts are. So a lot of the time, I think people are more afraid these days to jump into something unless they have a good expectation of what it is they're jumping into. Yeah, so it's really about educating. It sounds too formal of a word, but really educating their friends and the audience about what it is they're getting themselves into. But, other than that, it's really just being available.
Yeah, I guess it's like anything. I mean, if you were a house guest and you were hosting a barbecue, you do the same thing with the people that you were going to invite, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's no different. If people were going to bring some food along to the house concert, you'd do the same level of coordination almost. You don't want everyone to turn up with burgers to the barbecue and no one bring buns.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. When you think of it that way, it's so true.
Yeah.
One thing that I sometimes talk to house concert hosts with is, asking them to send me a photo of the space they're thinking about hosting music in, so I can get an idea, because I usually prefer to go completely acoustic. So when I play publicly, I still play solo a lot, but I also play with a duo and as a duo and as a trio. So I kind of play in different formations, but I really love playing solo for house concerts because it kind of fits the vibe of the space.
Yeah.
But I've seen bands do house concerts. I've seen all different types of arrangements, and that also depends on space. But I always like to see a photo, because then it helps me kind of determine if I want to go acoustic without amplification or if I want to bring something, depending on how big it is.
Yes, well, this was something I was going to ask. So, what are the considerations around noise? I'm interested. Do you generally play in houses that are detached, as opposed to, what we have in the UK, like a semi-detached or a terrace type house that's adjoined? Do neighbours potentially complain, or do they get involved?
So they just get invited, so they can't complain.
Yeah. I mean, how much of an issue can noise be?
I mean, I've played in all different types of housing situations. I haven't really done many apartments, but I have. Most of the house concerts I do are just in standalone homes. But here in Philadelphia, they do have a lot of what we call here as row homes or duplexes. Right. And so that'll be kind of like houses that are co-joined together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, in those cases, at least I can say in my experience, because my sister and I, we live together, and we also host house concerts for touring friends. What we do is we have a duplex, or our house is attached to the house next door, I should say.
Yeah.
So what we do is the day of or the day before, we'll go over to the neighbor and tell them we're having a house concert and invite them.
Good stuff, yeah.
And usually if you invite them, they're much more agreeable. And they don't have a problem. They never come, but I think it's the gesture of inviting them that makes them a little bit less angry if things get too loud. Yeah, so we haven't had any issues. There was one issue many years ago. I wasn't actually living in Philadelphia at the time, but my sister and I had hosted a house concert when she was still the only person living here, and someone called the cops on us.
Right.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was folk music, so. But the windows were open apparently, and someone thought it was too late. So.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that happening from time to time, I guess, if.
Yeah. I think it's all about just making your neighbors aware and inviting them if you like them that much.
Yeah. I was just about to say that one of the things you mentioned about playing with other artists, i.e. together or a 2-piece or a 3-piece. Do you ever have like more than one band or artist play in a night, or is it just normally one person?
I think that depends on each house. Yeah, the one I'm playing next week is 3 artists.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's also because his is a house concert series, so he's always booking artists and people are reaching out to him about booking too. His is the space that I was saying is kind of like a venue but a house. And so I think because of that, it's usually more than one artist. But in most cases, the house concerts I do, I'm the only one playing, because again, it's they're hosts that have been to shows, and they're they're booking me because they're a fan of my music, not because they want to have a whole bunch of artists playing in their living room. Yeah. So it's kind of like a completely different dynamic.
So you mentioned you turn up to one. I'm just trying to sort of picture what the sort of format of these evenings are. So people have arrived, they're having some food, they're doing the mingling. Then did you say, you mentioned maybe towards the end, does the guest gives a bit of a speech? Do they do introductions? Then do you sort of play? Do you have a break and then play again? Is there an encore?
Yeah. Is that chat?
Yeah. What does the format of the evening look like after the sort of mingling and the music starts?
Yeah, that's a good question. That also ebbs and flows and changes from place to place. But in most cases, the host will give a short introduction and maybe share how they first came across my music, and this really depends on the audience and how late the music starts. But sometimes I'll play straight through and usually do a 75 to 90 minute set.
Really? Wow.
Or I'll play with a break in the middle. Wow. And sometimes I'll try and gauge this based on how restless it seems like the audience is getting. And that happens a lot where, 45 minutes in or so, I can see people are starting to get up and, get refills, or, run to the restroom or something like that. So in those cases, we'll take a short 10, 15-minute break. People will, hang out and talk, and then we'll jump right back into the music for another 30 minutes or so. And I found that it's usually easier to do if the house concert is starting a little bit earlier in the evening. Say if it starts at maybe like 7 o'clock, then it's easier to do a break in the middle. But that also really just depends on the age range that I'm playing for.
Right.
Whether it's like a seasoned audience or if it's younger.
How long do people generally stay in the house after the performance?
I think every individual is different, but I've noticed that some people will stay for another hour and a half, and that even really goes back to the fact that it's a house. So people are just casually hanging and chatting and talking, and there's always that one person who stays like longer than they're supposed to. But some people will leave right after the music's done. But I think also the fact that there's food in most cases, that's what keeps people around longer. Food and drinks and such. So yeah, there are so many kind of unknown factors that are really dependent on who's showing up or who's hosting, or just the dynamic in the room.
Yeah. So what do you do that time? Do you just pack up and have a mingle, or like what do you do?
Yeah. So after my set, I'll usually be at the merchandise table.
Right.
And in most cases, and really in the best case scenario, there are a lot of people that are interested in buying the music or anything else. There's t-shirts and different things on my merchandise table. And so I'll head over there and just be, getting to know guests even more, talking and selling merchandise. And I usually wait to pack up until after people leave and make sure that I use that time to hang out with guests.
Yeah. That sounds that's like a captive audience, isn't it, for your merchandise as well? It's if you've gained that rapport and intimacy, they probably are more susceptible to have a chat and buy something. It's
yeah, it's, and that's really and like I mentioned before, people when you do get the opportunity to have that kind of experience with people, I think that they become so much more invested in who you are as an artist, and then they want to support what you're doing, and they want to leave with some kind of memorabilia as like a memory from that evening. So I think that I've noticed that people are more willing to buy merch at a house concert than at a club, just because it was more of an experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, while we've been talking, I keep thinking, like, it does sound very relaxing, very intimate. I keep thinking of that Smashing Pumpkins video. I think it's for 1979, the song. And it just gets out of hand in the video, and that's what I remember from house concerts. But this does sound a bit more civilized.
Chilled and relaxed.
I think so, but I've heard horror stories, and I've had a couple of shows that weren't house concerts that weren't that great. But I would argue that it has a lot to do with the type of music that you make. If you're making music, like folk music, singer-songwriter music. I haven't been to a lot of house concerts that are other genres, so I can't really speak for that, or speak to that, but I tend to think that the singer-songwriter genre makes room for house concerts in a way that other styles don't, because it is like the easy listening kind of setting.
No, makes
cool,
sense. Okay, well, I think we've covered a hell of a lot of great stuff, so just wrapping it up on house concerts, Joy, you must have come across all sorts of interesting or bizarre things. Well, what is the most random thing that's happened in house concerts for you?
Wow, I had this house concert in Virginia. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago now, where the guests didn't know it was a house concert. Yeah, they didn't know, and I don't think the hosts knew what a house concert was.
Right.
And apparently I didn't see the red flags in the communication beforehand. But it was kind of doubling as a housewarming and house concert, but I don't think that the host made that clear to her friends. And so people came, but almost, I would say a huge percent of them left before the music started. And then even more left about 20 minutes into.
Nice.
So by the time it was all said and done, I was playing to about 6 people.
Wow.
And it was very miserable evening.
Well, that's all lessons learned, I guess.
Yeah, it really has, and that's why I think I tend to be more hands-on with emails, with people, giving them expectations of what it looks like and answering questions they have. Oh, and I think my other horror story, this one happened last year. I had a host that was putting together a house concert for his friends, and they were all kind of young, recently married couples, and they all had children within the age of 2 and 6. And and you know where this is going.
Yeah.
It was such a waste of time, and it was just crazy and just havoc everywhere.
Oh man! But I guess you learn about the sorts of things to ask people when you're booking.
It's true.
Right. Well, but before we finish, our audience will know that we like to mention charities and good causes that our guests are really passionate about and might be interested in sharing with. And we know that you actually partner with Food for the Hungry. So would you like to give a little bit of background about who they are, what you get, how you got involved with them, and what it is that they do?
Yeah, where people can get involved.
Yeah, definitely. I really, really love Food for the Hungry. And I've been partnering with them for a little over 3.5 years now. And they're based in a little over about 18 to 20 countries across the world, in Africa, Asia, and in South America. And their goal is to fight hunger and to teach communities how to pull themselves out of poverty by using the resources that they have around them. And most of the work they're doing is specifically through a sponsorship program, where they're asking people to donate to sponsor a child that's in the program. They work with a group of children in each community, and then a portion of that sponsorship goes to that child and their family, things like schooling, providing education, uniforms, books, and things like that. But then also a portion of that sponsorship goes to the village as a whole to be able to help with creating programs that teach things like better hygiene and lowering mortality rates and things like that. And FH, I think what I love most about them is, so my family's from Nigeria, and my family, or my parents have always been deeply rooted in missions work around the world. And I think I grew up with that awareness of how a lot of times your circumstance has a lot to do with where you grew up and how you were raised, and maybe the privileges that you have that someone on the other side of the world doesn't have.
Definitely.
And the story of my life is so drastically different than the story of my dad's life. You know, his parents died when he was 4, and he didn't have a thing, but he got, just was by the grace of God, was able to come over to the U.S. and got a green card. And because of that huge drastic thing, my life is all of a sudden so much different than it would have been otherwise. So I love Food for the Hungry because they are going to places that are, the most rural, the most furthest away from metropolitan areas in their countries, and working with communities that are untouched, and really just caring about people that may feel forgotten and may not have hope. And I love that most of their workers are from the countries that they're working in. So in other words, when they're in the Dominican, I was in the Dominican with Food for the Hungry a few years ago. Most of every worker actually that was working in the villages that I visited was from the Dominican, and so was able to speak to the people in their language, and teach them how to change their standard of living according to things that they would do there, not the American way, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that's important.
Yeah. So I really love them, and if people would like to know more about them, they can visit my website, and there's a link at the top that shares more about why I chose to be involved with them, and also a video that I took from my trip with them.
Yeah, we watched that before, didn't we?
Yeah,
it was good. It was good.
No, it's excellent. And we'll put links in the show notes of this episode to both your website and their website, for any listeners who want to find out more or get involved, donate, whatever it may be. So no, it sounds like a really great cause, Joy.
Awesome. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Look, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Joy. I think there's some great content,
different content.
Some things for a lot of artists to think about doing, and some of the really great stuff you can get out of doing house concerts, as well as some of the things to be mindful of.
Definitely.
I love it. Yeah, this is fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much, Joy. We'll speak soon.
No problem. We'll talk soon.
A lot of what we spoke about in this episode is the space of the venue, because I often thought when you play clubs, pubs, whatever, the spaces are generally the same, aren't they? There's a stage.
Well,
but it's a pub situation, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. Again, like Joy, for any listeners in the US, coffee houses seem to be a fairly popular venue, and I'd imagine they'll come in all shapes and sizes. So I take your point. There's generally a room, and there'll be a stage in one corner or one end. But I don't know. I think it can be all different types, and some are purpose built as well, and some have clearly been an afterthought that are now used for live music.
Definitely an afterthought.
Without a doubt.
Remember the one which was actually below the audience in Sunderland? It was a pub, Black Bull.
I don't know, that was a bit odd.
We were down steps.
Yeah. Well, even like the Head of Steam, I mean, on the one hand, basement, quite good, but
the stage was about 3 inches, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was always
It was a trip at it more than a stage.
It was.
Yeah.
Or is.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like now.
Well, the bar was just not in the The whole thing was
you were kind of on the bar, weren't you?
Well, it was just bizarre.
Mm.
Oh, and that Empress or whatever, again, that was like really thin, long.
Yeah.
I think they're all shapes and sizes. And
well, maybe we should just cut that bit out then.
no, I like to correct you.
Okay, fair enough.
Unfortunately for me, I edit this, so
yeah. But I think that my point was of like different spaces of houses, like getting that. I'm kind of jumping a little bit ahead, but sending a photo beforehand, I thought that was actually quite a good idea. What am I getting myself into here? Is it a massive? Do I have to like project more? Is it really intimate? Are the crowd going to be like on my feet, sitting on the floor?
Yeah. Well, that's something for the
host.
Yeah, because again, I guess if Joy or whoever is going to be playing.
I was going to laugh again about your front garden.
I'm glad you find it funny.
It reminds us on the bit of Home Alone where the pizza man keeps knocking the ornament over. Yeah. Sorry, Amy, you were saying.
I'm going to take a photo and put it in the show notes of my broken fence.
I'm going to fix it tonight, then you won't have a chance.
You're not going to fix That's not a 2-second job.
Is it not?
No.
Right.
I'm telling you now, it's not.
No, I'm just giving you some life skills.
I don't know how much of a life skill it is. Fixing a tiny... For reference, this fence is...
6 inches?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay, sorry, anyway, you were saying.
I have no idea what I was saying. I'm too upset now.
Yeah.
No, I do know what I was saying. Joy, or the artist, I guess, can give some useful advice to the guest, the
host.
homeowner, the host, as to how you might want to put the chairs, do you put rows? Do you put, because if you've got a sofa, there's probably only so many places a sofa might go, for example, but then do you want to put it right to one side? Are you going to have rows of chairs? Bringing the emergency chairs in that only come out at Christmas, bean bags, all that sort of stuff. Or do you
she doesn't just do the gigs at Christmas,
No, but the emergency chairs only come out at Christmas.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Easter when you have it. I don't know.
Or whatever your religion may be.
Yeah. A horseshoe.
Ooh.
Really, like that?
I did like that because that lends itself to sitting on the floor on the floor as well.
Who's sitting on the floor?
Extra guests.
Ooh. I'm not coming to one at your house.
Yeah, but you've got
to remember... on the floor?
Joy was saying that sometimes there's a lot of people, being there like 70 odd. That's a lot of people in that.
It's a lot of bean bags.
It's a lot of bean bags. It's a lot of broken fences.
God, people wouldn't be driving to mine.
Nah, they wouldn't be.
Not off the drive like
but
you.
Actually, nothing wrong with driving, it's the parking, that's the issue.
That's clearly part of driving.
That actually is quite a good point though about the whole closed group of it. Because that was one thing of like, if you advertise it on Facebook, for example, and loads of people turn up unexpected because they just want to be there, regardless of if an artist is playing, that closed group does kind of give it, again, like we spoke in the first episode, that
the exclusivity
feel to it, and the whole social side of it. It's not just a rowdy party. I bet you some could be, depending on the artist. And they are intimate. And the homeowner, it is someone's house as well at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, fair play to people that put it on. Because, there's obviously a fair bit of planning. Like Joy was saying, she'll have limited involvement in the promoting of it. Might do a bit, but it's very much the...
Yeah, I suppose if she's got someone that she knows in the area might turn up, like, you should.
But again, it's who the host knows, who the host wants to invite, and...
Yeah.
And, just coordinate, if there's going to be, from simple, food, just give the barbecue example. If everyone brings a meat, no one brings buns, that's no good to your barbecue.
It's a carb deficiency, that's what that is.
That's a problem, isn't it?
It's a holder deficiency as well.
Well, yeah, you're not going to put the burger in your palm, are you? Well, you could, but it'll get messy very quickly.
But that also actually brings in a bit of neighbours as well, of getting the neighbours involved. If you're inviting them, they might come and it becomes less of an issue.
Well, that was the bit with the noise. I mean, I don't know. In my head, I was just almost making an assumption that noise was going to be an issue. But I suppose if you're playing in a lot of houses that aren't directly connected to another house, then, and particularly if it's largely acoustic, then
there's not much amplification, is there?
Probably isn't going to be too much of an issue. As opposed to if you're in an apartment of some kind, then I'm guessing that could be very problematic from a noise perspective.
Definitely.
Like when we house sitted in an apartment and someone was blasting Kylie Minogue.
Oh, did they ever?
2 or 3 in the
I forgot
morning.
about that.
That was not a great experience.
Yeah, that's when you were on your early shifts as well, wasn't it?
I did not want anyone to be spinning anyone around.
There was lots of spinning around going on then.
That was awful.
That was on repeat.
Yeah. It was, though. That was the problem.
Yeah. It kept spinning around.
Jesus. Kylie,
Kylie, give it a rest.
She wouldn't.
She wouldn't.
Oh, man. So, yeah, get your neighbours on board.
Yeah.
I guess is
There's actually a phrase she used when we were going through the bits and pieces around about when we were talking about neighbours. Kylie Minogue again.
Oh,
She's
God,
back in again.
Can't get away from her.
Oh,
That
Kylie.
was almost like it was planned.
I know. Listening rooms. Now that made sense. Like the people are literally listening to you, and I spoke about that a little bit in the first one. It's kind of a captive audience.
Yeah.
They're here to see. They're here for the event more than anything, but in your part of it, so they're very into, well, being nice more than anything.
Well, that's it. I can't imagine a host is going to go to the trouble of putting one of these things on to invite a load of people who aren't going to be interested or are going to talk throughout it or whatever. I guess that
You've got that out of the system, haven't they,
they're
beforehand?
gonna,
and afterwards as well.
well, that's it. But they're going to invite a load of people, I guess, because if they're putting it on, they're obviously a fan of the artist. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to invite a load of people who aren't also going to want to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, yeah, people will have been able to do the catch up, how have you been, blah blah, in the hour and a half or however long we're eating pizzas, or keep saying pizzas, I'm sure. Other foods network, nibbles maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's quite a good thing about the host being up front, but also Joy being up front at the start, because she is about what the host is getting, basically, what a house concert is. Because she mentioned a couple of experiences where they didn't know and they just weren't expecting
it's a
that.
housewarming party.
Yeah, housewarming party, or
you don't want that.
Just literally not knowing exactly what was going to happen. And then she might get paid less on those type of events, and it's...
Well, again, if you've driven 2 hours to play what guests thought was a housewarming party, then that's just going to be a waste of everyone's time.
Definitely. And I think if the host has been up front as well about what food to bring, what the art, like there's someone actually going to perform, what sort of stuff they do.
Well, helping the host to promote it in the right way, I guess.
Exactly.
So if you're not doing it yourself, obviously make sure that they've got enough to...
Yeah. And again, to mainly solo for Joy, for different people it might be different. For us it would have been the two of us probably, but she's mainly solo. I think it lends itself to her type of music.
Again, yes and no. If you've got two people with two acoustic guitars, equally, I'm sure it could work. I think you could do all sorts of...
I think you could do it as a band, but you'd have very, very accommodating neighbours.
Well, it depends how. It depends what instruments you use. It doesn't have to be your normal live setup.
Yeah.
I tell you what I liked, putting on house concerts yourself for other artists. So if you've got if you've played gigs with other people from different parts of the country, their cities or whatever, then I guess if you had built up a small community of people who all lived in different places, then putting those on or hosting that for when your fellow musicians happen to be playing in your city, I think seems like a fairly good community type thing to do to help other musicians
definitely,
out.
Yeah, because I remember when we played around the country a few times, we were often, when you're in Newcastle, let we know, and we'll come and see you, or we'll try and get you a gig swap type of thing.
Yeah.
It kind of worked, but I could see this working, because of the type of medium that it is, I could see that working, because if you have, let's just say, you're an artist in wherever, I come down, you could do a couple of 20-minute set, then I could do an hour and a bit, pass the hat around, then when you come up this way, same difference.
Like if we were going to be playing a gig,
you've got somewhere to stay as well. You could kip over.
Well, potentially, depending on how well you know them.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I think if we were going to be playing like a gig in Leeds on a Saturday, like or something instead, then you could potentially go down the night before and play a house concert.
I definitely think if you're a host of them, even if you're not in a band, but think actually I want to be in promotion or putting concerts on or festivals on, as long as you've got permission from the person, I would give it a whirl. See what happens. Just don't break anything. Give it to your mum and dad's, please.
Well, yes. Yeah, always ask permission from the person who owns the house. I think it's probably a good plan.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's making everyone aware. I mean, again, if Uncle Phil comes home early, and there's a big concert going on, and he's there.
I think they did do that in the Fresh Prince. I think Jazzy Jeff was spinning some tunes. I think you fell into a plot there.
I can imagine that's probably an episode, isn't it?
But yeah, I thought the whole idea of them was great. I thought the putting together of them was great. Very social, very captive audience, and like if you think about
building the rapport with fans as well. Although I did find funny, which is obviously a thing for lots of people, but I guess lots of artists who aren't in the mainstream media possibly don't experience as often, is what Joy described. She'd rock up to these things and people would be like, "Oh, hi Joy, how are you doing?" And they know a lot about her because they've followed her for a while or whatever, and she'd be like, "I don't know who you are."
That well.
Yeah. That's got to be odd. But it's an opportunity to get to know that person a bit better.
If she's going to perform there, she'll have, I hate to use the frame game face on, but she'll have that mindset of like, yep, I'm on, let's go and talk to them and their fans. Yeah, this is a potential, another one, it's potential customer, it's potential CD sale.
You'll meet loads of interesting people, I'd have thought.
Of course, yeah, definitely. Yeah, if someone's thought about putting a house concert on there in that kind of mindset of being a bit different and creative, yeah, definitely. And you got anything else that you jotted down there? I think
the only other thing was mention the charity. Which, again, another great cause, as they all are, and all always will continue to be.
Joy's very immersed in it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And the general ethos from Joy, I thought, was really good. The
bit about her history and her past, and
putting something back to try and give others an opportunity that she and others were lucky enough to have, which is part of why we want to mention a good cause in most of our episodes, because we are very fortunate if you compare us and our lives to a lot of people across the world.
Yeah, I think it's for the sake of a bit of time at the end of this, puts a bit of word out. It actually is quite interesting as well about what people view the world and what they choose to be like a cause that they're behind, which is great.
Yeah, because everyone, it's back to the personal story, everyone's got a particular reason why they'll be really passionate about something. So again, we'll put links in the show notes, so if anyone wants to get involved, donate, whatever, on Food for the Hungry, then it'll all be there in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, I'm now going to watch carefully as Ben exits my drive. So up next week we speak to Mark Morris of the Blue Tones about repartee, crowdfunding and the importance of musicians getting paid.
We've reached the end of this week's episode of Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast.
Big thank you for tuning in, and remember to stop by iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
While you're there, it would be amazing if you could leave a rating and a review.
All the show notes can be found at www.acpgmusic.com, and if you want to get in touch,
email us your questions, any feedback and any suggestions to info@acpgmusic.com.
That's it for now. Keep supporting upcoming artists,
and we'll catch you next time.